What's poppin', y'all? Nicki Minaj recently dropped her album, and she's been going on. This is the follow-up, Pink Friday 2, to her very iconic and well-known album, Pink Friday. And she's been doing press and appearances and IG Lives, and I think she even has an interview scheduled, or she already did an interview. I don't know, I might have missed that. Things have been hectic the last couple of days. I've been moving around a little bit. But one thing that kind of saddened me to see was not her on Cenat, but she was on Cenat's live stream, and Elliott Wilson, one part of the host of the Rap Radar podcast, legendary journalist, like Hall of Fame hip-hop journalist, older guy. I think he's in his 50s. And then he just types in hip-hop journalism, and it's a screen cap of Cenat, some of his friends, some like couple of girls, and Nicki Minaj kind of just dancing, right? Or twerking, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of people came at him for this, and I had more of a tame response because I do have an incredible amount of respect for what this guy has done. And I understand and empathize with the level of frustration he's feeling. And I think that's something not a lot of people are doing. They're kind of just labeling him as an old head hater. But I responded and I said, Cenat is not a journalist. This is just like Nicki Minaj going to perform on BET or MTV. It's a performance. A Jimmy Kimmel, for instance. Except unlike Jimmy, Cenat is and grew up on hip hop. It's something we should all celebrate. Now, some people had their own things to say, which is like, man, we're going to celebrate Nicki Minaj twerking in front of kids. All right, man. I'm not willing to get into that conversation. My whole thing is Nicki Minaj appearing on Cenat's stream. We're not going to go into the whole like twerking and all of that stuff and whatever else she's said or done on there. But I kind of want to give a more reasonable take and response to Elliott Wilson's frustrations or points because I feel like I understand them to a degree. The first one I will give is that I believe it's a great move for rappers right now and music artists to diversify the media and type of media platforms that they're doing quote unquote press on. So back then it was kind of just like, hey, magazine interviews, right? Like what else were we going to do? And then maybe like late night talk shows, maybe even game shows, things like that. Cenat is kind of all bundled into one. We even had 106 in Park as a thing. Would Elliott Wilson have been upset at someone being on 106 in Park because it wasn't journalism? We can't call that journalism. That was just straight up entertainment. And Cenat is kind of like, hey, where people go to have fun. So if an artist is rolling something out, I don't think it's a good idea for them to, let's say, back when Aiden Ross was doing his thing, right? Let's say he still is. I don't think it's a good idea for them to do Aiden Ross and Cenat and maybe hang out with another streamer because you're kind of hitting the same type of content, the same type of media, and the same type of audience. However, if Nicki Minaj splits it up and she's doing, this is a performance that she did. And it's not easy. This is live. So artists have to prep for this. For an interview, they can ask you to cut certain stuff out. They can prepare for an interview. There isn't live feedback from anyone other than yourself. So I think Elliott Wilson kind of has to give credit to artists for hopping on live streams in the sense that it's a vulnerable position that they're putting themselves in. Especially female artists, they're way more vulnerable in getting comments, hate, whatever else it may be. In a regular interview, she can have everything done properly, make sure the lighting is done. She can look at how it looks. Here, she's moving around. So her appearance is something that's very important to her brand and to her, as we've seen. So I think he has to give it more credit. It's not easy to entertain for hours upon hours at a time when you're competing with a bunch of other streamers that are also trying to out-entertain you. This is an attention market. Everyone's fighting for attention. So I think he has to give a little bit more credit to what Cenat is doing. Like, sure, it's not journalism, which is what I said. And I don't know why he's ascribing journalism to it. But Nicki Minaj replied, and she said the following: Elliott, if you'd spit Jay-Z D out for 1 second, you'd be able to be happy for the newcomers. Isn't that how y'all tried to tarnish my image by saying I'm not welcoming new chicks in? Did songs with all of them though. Why you not happy for a young black man like Kai? Tomorrow, B-I-T-C-H. I think this is Nicki Minaj. She's just going to go in hard on him like that, and that's fine. I don't have anything wrong with what she said. But I don't think Cenat is a newcomer in terms of journalism. And Elliott Wilson, especially when he voiced frustration with Drake, to me, it seemed a bit ungrateful. Drake doesn't owe any journalist, interviewer, really anything. And he gave them an exclusive interview. So the fact that he just gave you one, like, you should just be happy with that. He doesn't owe you to give you anything more, and he wants to diversify his pool. So circling back to what I said about rappers. So if Nicki Minaj appears on something like this, right, a Cenat, okay, this hits a certain audience, it's a certain type of content. And then she goes on a late night show. It's a different audience, different age group, different type of content as well. Although it's kind of similar, but it's pretty different, especially if it's like a white, quote unquote white show. Then she maybe does a radio interview. And then maybe she does a podcast interview, which I think is kind of what she's doing. Isn't she doing Joe Budden? I don't know for sure. I didn't really look into that too much. But I think that's a good diversity. So she's hitting and is Joe Budden even a journalist? I don't know. I don't know what he considered himself. But that's another medium. So she'll hop on Joe Budden, which is a podcast / interview. And then she's probably doing one press outlet, or should be doing one press outlet. That's an official interview. One thing that I gotta come at Elliott Wilson for is it's kind of boring and it gets redundant when an artist is doing a rollout and every single piece of media that they're doing for press is identical. Hey, we're going to do a freestyle on this radio show, and then we're going to be interviewed, and they're pretty much going to ask us the same questions, and then we're going to do it again and again and again and again and again. And we kind of get 5 pieces of the same thing. And you don't think that gets boring and tiresome for the artist? Of course it does. So I think Elliott Wilson kind of has to look at it from the perspective of the artist as well. If she's doing one piece with a hip hop, quote unquote, journalistic outlet, or any journalistic outlet, I think that's fine. Now, if she isn't doing any, I'm still not willing to knock her, but I do think she would be missing out if she doesn't do something like that. Rap Radar, I'm pretty sure they got the first exclusive YoungBoy interview. So I don't understand why they would be upset in any type of capacity. They got a good look this year. So that's just something that I think Elliott Wilson needs to kind of grasp. And I don't think he is going to grasp it if people just kind of go in on him and make fun of him and say he's a hater and he's an old head. I think he cares about the game. I think, of course, he feels like, hey, I've put in so much toil and time into all of this, and I've lent my platform, I guess, or I've done stuff with you artists, so it would make sense that they're grateful and continue to show me love. But I don't think that's necessary. In the same way that Nicki Minaj is huge now and she's showing love to younger people, maybe Elliott Wilson should, I guess, be interviewing younger people, which he is doing with YoungBoy. So I don't see this as something to be upset about. It's very hard for me to find a way to hate on this or to be upset by it. And I think it's a bit archaic. And Cenat, if he was a negative individual that was pushing a negative message, I would understand it a bit more. But he's not. The guy's just like fun and positivity and, cracking jokes. And it's just overall a fun vibe. And that's why I think artists are on there on top of the views. And it's a huge moment. Now, do I think that a Cenat stream is going to move the needle for someone's sales, I guess, or consumption? I don't think as much as the numbers represent how many people watched live and even after are going to move the needle much, or as much as an interview or a big interview for a music-based audience. However, I do think it helps the brand a ton, because one of the most important thing is to be likable. It's probably up there with the music, maybe even a bit above the music. So when you're on Cenat's stream and you're having fun, this audience likes you now. And if they like you, they're more willing to check stuff out later. And it just overall turns your brand perception into something very good, which is a huge move for Nicki Minaj, because outside of the Barbs and her fans, people kind of have this sour image of her. They're like, she's kind of mean, rude, goes in on people. And that's not a good image to have, especially in the past couple of years. So when she hops on Cenat's stream and she's having fun and she's joking around and she's jovial and very likable, that does wonders for her brand, because it shatters the people that are like, oh man, she's always mean and rude. And it also brings people that were kind of on the fence to the side of liking her, which is more powerful than just an interview. And an interview isn't going to reach outside of the people that are really, really dialed into that. Whereas this is going to reach people that maybe don't even listen to Nicki Minaj much and just know about her from the headlines, which haven't been positive as of late. So that's pretty much my 2 cents on the situation. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm really interested in hearing what you guys have to say about this. Do you think I'm tripping? Do you think Elliott Wilson is right? Do you think he's wrong? If so, why? I kind of like making these videos because it's like I'm having a discussion by myself, but then you guys are there. So, or after I upload, I'm having it by myself while I'm recording. So I like to kind of see the back and forth. But yeah, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for watching. Peace.